Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another great episode of Questioning Everything. Tonight, we are on episode 68, finishing up the first part of many parts of our series on the frauds in our modern history, the misrepresentations of our modern history. So, we'll finish up the series here, the third part of the series, with the patent clerk who rewrote reality. And thank you all so much for tuning in live tonight. I hope you had a great week so far. So, we'll talk tonight. We'll finish all of this series for the last stretch of episodes. We have been walking through the manufactured, mythologized, and heavily protected figures of modern history. We covered Stephen Hot Wheels Hawkins, the man who became a scientific oracle and a medical miracle while barely able to speak without a machine. We covered Sigmund Freud, the man who helped turn spiritual realities into medical diagnosis. We spent serious time on Napoleon Bonaparte, the 33rd degree figure, the 33rd degree adjacent figure, with the hand in his coat who seemed to show up at every major reset event of that time period. We looked at Helen Keller and the water pump miracle that somehow produced a British accent and flew airplane stunts. We also looked at Anne Frank and the diary that carries the magical ballpoint pen questions, and an editorial history that never quite sits right. So tonight we'll close off this particular series. It'll be the first of many of these people in our modern history that we idolize, with the biggest sacred cow of them all, the wild haired, tongue sticking out, gentle genius of the 20th century, Albert Einstein. And we'll talk a little bit about Albert's wife as well. So, once we have walked slowly through the cracks in this history of ours, we are going to pivot into something even stranger, something most people never notice: the strange silence that falls across the world between the period of roughly 1910 and 1915, a short window of years where the old world seems to vanish from public view and the new official timeline locks in to a place hard. This is going to be an exciting one. We're not rushing. Every claim gets room to breathe. So let's settle in and start with it. So we'll start officially with the mainstream story behind Albert Einstein, the version we are all taught in school. Um, I guess before I jump into Albert Einstein, a lot of you guys have been asking me for an update of my community, how everybody's doing. It's been roughly a little over 2 weeks. I can't believe it. We're all starting to come together. There's a lot of houses that are being torn down. Debris still piles the sides of the street, but it's getting cleaned up. It's looking more and more like a town every day. Our community really kind of rallied together, really came strong. That person selling those Menasha Strong T-shirts, I believe he sold like over 15,000. That's amazing. My son got relocated to a temporary school, so we're figuring out all of the busing situation and all of that. But everyday life is slowly becoming normalized again. The scars of that tornado will always be visible, but it's slowly getting rebuilt and cleaned up. But we're all okay. Family's all okay. Little ones are all okay. And it's beginning to feel more and more normal every day. So thank you guys all for asking for an update, and just wanted to give you a quick little rundown of how we're all doing here. So back to Albert Einstein, the official Einstein story, the one we're all taught in school. The version that still appears in textbooks and documentaries goes like this: Albert Einstein is born on March 14th, 1879, in the city of Ulm in the Kingdom of Württemberg, which is now part of Germany. His family is secular Jewish, middle class, and involved in technical work. As a child, he is described as quiet, slow to speak, and somewhat dreamy. The official biographies love to linger on this detail because it makes the later genius story more dramatic. The late blooming mind that suddenly explodes into brilliance. He attends school in Munich, then later Switzerland. He studies at the Zurich Polytechnic. After graduating, he struggles to find a proper academic position. Universities do not rush to hire him. So, in 1902, he takes a job as a technical expert third class at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It is presented to us in the books of history as a humble, almost dead end job, the kind of ordinary employment a future genius had to endure while his mind is quietly revolutionizing physics in the evenings. Then comes 1905, the year the official narrative calls his miracle year. While still working full time at the patent office, Einstein publishes five major scientific papers that, according to the narrative, completely rewrite our understandings of the physical universe. In that single year, he produces work on the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and the equivalence of a mass and energy expressed in the equation E equals mc squared. Over the following decades, hello Scott, how are you doing tonight? Seth, how are you doing? So glad you made it as well. Thank you guys all for tuning in live. So, over the following decade, he develops the general theory of relativity, which redefines gravity itself as the curvature of space time. In 1919, observations of solar eclipse are said to confirm his predictions, and he becomes an international celebrity almost overnight. He is awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1921. The wild haired, baggy clothes, and kind expression, the famous photograph of him sticking his tongue out at the camera, all of it combines to create the perfect public image of the eccentric, pure hearted genius who sees truth ordinary people cannot. Exactly, Michael. It is indeed a lot for 1 year for a guy working at the patent office full time. And in 1 year at the same time, releasing five scientific papers. Very, very true. That is the story, though. It is clean, it is inspiring, it is taught to children as proof that solidarity, human brilliance can unlock the secrets of the universe. It is also, when you begin to look closely, full of soft spots that never quite harden under pressure. So let's look at some of these anomalies in Einstein's history. Let's start with the patent office, the perfect information pipeline. Let us stay here for a while because this detail is usually brushed past in most of the history you are taught about Einstein, as if it's unimportant. Einstein's job title was technical expert third class. His daily work involved examining patents, applications as they came in through the Swiss patent system. Many of those applications dealt with electrical devices, mechanical systems, and early electromagnetic technology. In practical terms, this means he was being paid to read detailed technical descriptions of other people's inventions, often before those inventions were publicly known or fully developed. Consider what that position actually provides. You receive a steady stream of new ideas. You see the mathematical and engineering approaches other people are using. You learn where the cutting edge currently sits. You are not isolated in a university office, working only with your own thoughts. You are sitting at a privileged information node. The official biographies treat the patent office years as a period of patent suffering. The genius forced to do boring, bureaucratic, mundane work while his real mind was elsewhere. But the structure of the job itself makes the framing incomplete. A man in the seat has access to a continuous flow of technical novelty. When that same man then produces a rapid series of revolutionary papers with relative thin trails of prior personal publication, the question of information advantage becomes legitimate. So this is not a claim that Einstein simply stole specific people's patents and rewrote them, though he could very well have. It is an observation about opportunity. The environment in which the miracle year occurred was not a vacuum. It was an environment rich with other people's technical thinking. That fact alone changes the texture of the solid genius story. Just a humble patent clerk. Exactly, Jenny. Exactly. So, next, let's take a little bit closer look at his lifetime companion, his wife, Mileva Marić, the wife who looks like a dude. Now we reach part of Einstein's story the official counts handle with the greatest care, or more often with the greatest silence. His first wife, Molivia. Molivia was born in 1875 in Tittel, in what was then the Austro Hungarian Empire, to a Serbian family. She was intelligent, determined, and one of the very few women of her time to study physics and mathematics at the university level. She enrolled at the Zurich Polytechnic in the same cohort as Einstein. Contemporary students and professors noted that she was a capable mathematician. Some accounts suggest she was a stronger in pure mathematics than even Einstein himself was in those early years. However, look carefully at all the surviving photographs of her, particularly those taken in middle age and later. The jaw is heavy, the brow is very prominent, the shoulders are quite broad, and the overall facial structure strikes a large number of independent observers, myself including, as markedly masculine. And in several of the overall facial structures of her face, and here is some photos of her husband Einstein, and a very cute pair of shoes you can see him wearing in a lot of these photos. Very odd pair of sandals for a man to wear, and a very odd pose for a man to wear. Very few men ever cross their legs like that. It's kind of hard for us to do. And you can often see him with his cute little stilettos or whatever you want to call them. Here he is at the beach and his legs crossed. Yeah, I'm with you. He definitely looks like a man. And no wonder why she was just as good as mathematics as Einstein. It was competing with another man. There are many theories about her, him, however you want to say it. People who encounter the photographs without the official captions frequently make the same remark: that's a dude. There is a theory that circulates in certain communities that the individual presented to the world as Molivia may not have been female at all, that a male mathematical collaborator existed and the marriage provided social cover for the working relationship. Again, another pipeline of information to help further establish the fictional heroic scientific genius of Einstein. I want to be precise here. That theory is not established fact, but it does have a lot of prominent eyebrows raised. Um, it remains speculative, just to let you know, but dig into the photos of her or whatever. The visual evidence is quite strange enough. And the other anomalies surrounding her roles are large enough that the question does not simply disappear when the official biographies choose to ignore it. What cannot be dismissed so easily is the written record of their early relationship in letters exchanged before, during, and the early years of their marriage. Einstein and her repeatedly use collective language about scientific work. They write of our work on relative motion. They refer to our theory. They speak of the research as a shared project, as a team of collaboration. Yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire. She kind of does look like a Mrs. Doubtfire there, and absolutely. So when they were exchanging love letters, they were constantly talking about Einstein's theories. And it wasn't Einstein talking about his theories, it was our theories. So it sounded very collaborative, like a team work, like a team exchanging notes in a group project. These are not isolated phrases. The collaborative language appears multiple times in many correspondences of theirs. The letters are part of the historical archive. They are not modern inventions. She sat for one final examination and did not pass. Einstein did. After they married in 1903, she continued to take part in discussions of physics problems with Einstein and what he was working on. There is evidence she assisted with calculations and with the checking of mathematical work of his. As their professors said, that she was said to be better at mathematics at that time than Einstein himself. After their separation and eventual divorce in 1919, the volume of major original work from Einstein declined drastically. In later decades, he rarely mentioned her scientific involvement. Biographers largely followed that silence, reducing her to a difficult wife or a domestic footnote. We are left with a consistent pattern, however. A mathematically trained partner who was present during the decisive years of Einstein, who was referred to in private correspondence as a coworker on the core ideas rather than a spouse talking about their work to one another. They present core ideas with one another, constantly mentioning it as our theory, our project, and unusually masculine appearances, to say the least, in the photographic record of her, and the rather feminine appearance of Einstein in a lot of photos. Later minimalized, of course, in the public account of how the theories came into being. That pattern does not prove any single dramatic conclusion. It does, however, place a serious structural question mark over the clean lone genius narrative. And I mean, if his wife was a he, love whoever you want to love, but there seems to be a lot of gender inversion with the elites. It seems to be a pattern. If you want more examples, look at all the first ladies in history. Many of them, not saying all of them, but many of them don't look like they're first ladies, but maybe first gentlemen's perhaps. Einstein's doctrine is such a massive tax-paying scam. Incremental progress is rewarded. Science uses to be fearless, but now it grants the status quo. Yeah, that's the reason I picked these figures for these first 3 episodes of this series. That's kind of establishes a pillar of kind of like science as the modern day religious cult. It's replaced an actual religious cult with modern day science, and people like Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and Stephen Hot Wheels Hawkins kind of lays that pillar, lays that framework that we're trying to build here on this series. We'll take a pause for the people of history after this episode tonight, but I wanted to start with these particular figures, and Napoleon Bonaparte as well, covering a lot of the reset period of our history. They shared bathwater, yeah. So the 1905 miracle year in prior work of Mr. Albert Einstein. One paper addresses the photoelectric effect and the quantum nature of light. Another deals with Brownian motion and provides strong evidence for the existence of atoms, all while working at the patent office, mind you. The two papers developed the special theory of relativity and the relationship between mass and energy. The speed and apparent completeness of this output are presented as evidence of most supernatural insight on Einstein's perhaps. Yet when historians of physics examine the surrounding literature, they find that important pieces of the mathematical and conceptual framework were already in circulation. Hendrik Lorentz had developed transformations that perform the form of Maxwell's equations. Henri Poincaré had explored the principle of relativity and the difficulties with absolute time. Other researchers were working on related problems in electrodynamics and the behavior of light. Einstein's contribution was real and significant. He brought certain ideas together with clarity and pushed them further. But the popular story that these theories emerged fully formed from a single mind working in isolation does not survive contact with the broader scientific context of the time. The citation practices in the 1905 papers are notably light by modern standards. The work appears more abrupt than is typical for major theoretical advances. The Nobel Peace Committee, when it finally honored Einstein in 1921, cited the photoelectric effect rather than a relativity. Relativity was still regarded by many senior physicists as insufficiently established. That detail is usually treated as a historical curiosity. It can also be read as a quiet admission that the most celebrated part of the legend of Einstein was the part the establishment was least ready to endorse. Yes, our food, cosmetics, air, water is literally poison. And history and modern media is all poison for our mind. Absolutely. So this all kind of boils in to the usefulness of the Einstein mythology. The larger than life one man of him. Step back from the personal details, his wife or whoever it was, and look at the cultural function the Einstein stories performed. By the early 20th century, Western societies were in the process of shifting authority away from traditional religious frameworks and towards scientific expertise, the old trust the science crowd. That shift required new public symbols. It needed figures like Freud, like Einstein, who could embody the idea that the deepest truths about reality were accessible only to rare, highly trained minds. Einstein's public image was almost perfectly suited to that role. The wild haired suggested a mind too busy with cosmic thoughts to bother with ordinary appearance. The gentle, slightly otherworldly expression suggested purity of motive. The tongue photograph that everyone so knows him by humanized him without reducing his stature. He became the kindly high priest of a new secular order. The message that accompanied the image was powerful. The universe is far stranger and more mathematical than common sense allows, and only a handful of geniuses can truly understand it. Ordinary people should accept the conclusions and not ask too many foundational questions. Trust the experts, trust the science, trust the equations, trust the man with the wild hair and the wild wife. That message helped consolidate a new form of intellectual authority at the exact historical moment when older sources of meaning and older technological possibilities were being displaced. The Einstein myth did not merely celebrate science, it helped redefine what counted as legitimate knowledge and who was allowed to speak about the nature of reality. When a biographical narrative performs that kind of cultural work, it is no longer just a biography. It becomes part of the operating system of the age, of the modern age. So that is my rundown on Einstein. Um, he was a real figure, he did exist, but my personal opinion is his work was very much overly inflated, not the work of just one man, a collaboration of men, or perhaps him and his wife, to say the least. The fact that his golden years all occurred when he was working at the patent office, taking in all of this information and magically coming out with 5 scientific papers at that time really makes you wonder about the man we are told and taught to essentially idolize, and that is the modern religious cult. You know, these are the pillars of, the trust the experts, the ones with the face mask wearing in their cars during the certain time period, of that pandemic of ours. It's very, very much important, when you add all of those pillars, it's all taking a society and turning it away from a divine creation and making it just a random cosmic Big Bang type theory of, we're just monk evolved from monkeys on a spinning ball in infinite universe. Nothing matters. We don't matter. That's kind of how the modern system works. And that kind of formulates into our next portion tonight that we're going to start with. We're going to start getting into a little bit of the old world again after covering these 3 parts of our series of historical mythologized figures. There's still tons more on the list of those people to cover. I hope you get a better sense of Einstein and the kind of whole culmination of Einstein, Freud, Hawking, how they all kind of are that pillar of what the lies were built on today. In my opinion, was Einstein just a figurehead? Yes. That's exactly kind of what I believe he was, just a mythologized, idolized figure in our modern history books. Someone to give credit for other people's work, absolutely. I mean, just look at how him and his wife were um, collaborating. If you look up some of their letters, I mean, he it's not necessarily everything he published and said was incorrect or wrong, but just how we built our modern day understanding of science and how the whole trust the expert crowd got, you know, formalized is because of people like Einstein. Hey, glad I could make it. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. So now we're going to go into a different direction here. We're going to talk about the silence of 1910 and 1915, the post reset mud flood era after the last reset. I'll have a nice little slideshow while we talk about that. So now we pivot to our second major part of tonight's work. Once you start examining the manufactured figures of the early 20th century, another pattern becomes difficult to ignore. There is a strange silence, a strange acceleration that falls across the recorded world between roughly 1910 and 1915. What do we actually observe in that narrow window of years? The old architectural and technological world that was still highly visible and photographable in the late 1800s and the first few years in the 1900s begins to disappear from public discussion or gets reframed as the work of less advanced horse and buggy, hammer and chisel people. Concept and devices related to free energy and advanced engineering and non standard power systems like Tesla that appears in earlier records and patents suddenly stop being talked about the same open way that they were back then. The official history of linear progress jumps forward dramatically after 1915. World War I begins in 1914. That war conveniently destroys enormous amounts of physical infrastructure across Europe. Cities, libraries, technical schools, private collections, and whatever older technology that was still standing in the open. The timing is almost perfect if the goal was to wipe a previous layer of material culture and install a cleaner, more controlled narrative. After 1915, the story of modernity locks in hard. The scientific materialist worldview takes center stage. Einstein becomes one of its primary public faces. The older world, with anomalies, architecture, hints of different energy systems, its records that do not fit the new timeline, gets memory hold, explained away, physically removed. We turn away from the religious, the otherworldly, and turn towards the materialistic view. It is as if someone flipped a switch. Before that window, you still see abundant traces of a different technological and cultural reality. After that window, however, the official timeline becomes much cleaner, much more linear. and much more tightly controlled. The silence is not total, it is selective. Certain category oh sorry, certain categories of knowledge, certain classes of structure, and certain technological possibilities simply stop appearing in the public conversation in the same way. The figures who help define the new reality, like Einstein, prominent among them, but he is far from the only one, rise to fill the space that the silence creates and what religion fundamentally had foundationally for generations. The genius who tells us that time and space are relative becomes useful at the exact moment the old fixed reference points are being erased. So when you put it all together, Einstein next to the other figures we have examined across the series, the operating template becomes difficult to miss. Create a larger than life character, give them a compelling personal story of struggle, eccentricity, or solidarity and brilliance, make their achievements seem almost superhuman. Surround them with a moral of intellectual force field, a moral or intellectual force field where you cannot criticize them, so that questioning them feels like an attack on progress, an attack on the person of science or human potential itself. Use them to push a specific narrative about what is real, what is possible, and what ordinary people are no longer allowed to question. Einstein is one of the cleanest and most successful examples of that process. The clerk, the miracle year, the mathematically capable partner who is later erased, the carefully cultivated public image, the timing that sits right around at the edge of that 1910-1950 silence. The question is no longer whether every single detail of these stories is fabricated from nothing. The question is how much of the official version is a carefully managed product designed to occupy public attention and shape collective belief at a critical moment of historical rewriting. History is being rewritten minute by minute, day by day, folks. History, as the saying attributed to Napoleon goes, is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. The people who write the textbooks, control the images, and protect the sacred cows get to decide which lies become permanent and which questions are treated as dangerous. We are not required to accept every official story at face value. That is the main point of this series and the channel in general, questioning everything. We are required to look at the evidence, including the inconvenient photographs, the private letters, the thin citation trails, and the strange silence in the timeline, and decide for ourselves how much weight to give the doubts. This is the actual work of questioning everything, friends. So, tonight we closed the Manufactured Figures series with Albert Einstein. We stepped into the strange silence that falls between 1910 and 1915, the pattern behind all of these inconsistent stories. We had it was a very fun series for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. The last part of the episode. This episode and tomorrow's episode's only going to be an hour. I got a big birthday party for both little ones. It's a great thing about having one birthday on August 1st and one born on August 3rd. Then you can have just one big combined birthday. We were going to have it obviously the week of the tornado, and then the tornado happened. So we are planning to have a very nice big birthday party with all my family in Wisconsin this Saturday. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll be another way to get back to normalcy as much as can be. I mean, the sky, like I always love looking outside at night and watching the sunset, sunrise, etc. And all the trees that are gone in the area makes it just look so awkward, like a whole nother town. But it's slowly getting back to normal. Hey, thank you very much. I can't believe we're already on episode 68, Cobra. That's so much a testament to just how awesome you guys are, how fun it's been questioning everything with you guys together. I'm glad you appreciated the last few episodes, Vern. I really do. I appreciate it. I've been taking into your guys' feedback and what you guys want to talk about here. If you guys haven't joined yet, here's a link to my Discord. That's a great place to chat about either before or after the show, chatting about the last episodes or topics you want to talk about. If you want to be a part of the program, you can join in on our Open Lines Friday night. That's a great way to do it. Just drop a line in Discord if you haven't joined yet. Um, Make sure you check out my link tree and my bio too to check out all my other show channels, YouTube, Spotify. If you haven't joined Spotify yet, really appreciate if you check that out. Give that a follow. That gives you all my past episodes in full, free of charge. So the next coming episodes, we're going to pivot into some more of the old world topics. I want to cover some of the interesting great fires in America. We went over a couple of them um, way back in the beginning of this program, but 68 episodes, a lot gets talked about at that time period. So we are going to bring up some of those great fires again and look at them with a skeptical lens, to say the least. Let's take a few more of your questions here and we'll wrap up tonight's episode. Would I mind making this series a playlist? Yeah, I can do that. Kind of just as we do more series. I want to do like the series in like three-part episodes. They're not in any means like the full end all of the information on these people. I just kind of want to spark your guys' curiosity to dig more into them yourselves. Do your own research, question everything, including myself. I just kind of want to give you the official narrative behind them and the very skeptical breakdown behind them. I'm not telling you these people were outright frauds or not. Uh, I give you my opinion and my thoughts on them, but I want you guys to form your own opinions, your own conclusions. That's how we get better. But yeah, I'll definitely make those a playlist. Look into the Halifax explosion of 1917. Okay. I haven't heard of that one before. I'll take a note of it. Yeah, when you guys tell me stuff, I love to just I have like a little notebook on my side, these shows. Um, I like to kind of jot down what you guys tell me. Maybe we'll make a future episode of it or talk about it in an upcoming episode. If it's intriguing enough, we'll get it on the show for sure. Most evil people all die of old age. Yeah, the old saying, "The good die young." It's really kind of true, isn't it? The evil, like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, they all seem to live till they're like 100. They look like they're 1,000 when they die, and they never seem to ever die of cancers or anything like that. Probably because they have all that cure. I mean, there's no money in a healthy person, a healthy patient, and that's pretty much our modern medical system now. Hey, Angel, lots of love to you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, I agree. I That's my opinion as well. The more you look into Einstein, I didn't want to just overload you guys with tons and tons of technical information about Einstein. I mean, we can go many, many hours picking apart all of his work in a whole, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys a nice, detailed, thorough rundown of the mythologized version of Einstein and point out some anomalies with his wife as well. Tesla was a fraud too. Very much, I mean, I kind of think he's kind of in the same boat as Einstein. Um, I think he was real. A lot of people think he wasn't even a real person. The few amounts of pictures and videos of or Tesla is kind of odd, especially for that time period. But I think he was real, kind of like a talking head, a figurehead for a lot of these works of the old world to be introduced. The elites may be the fallen 200 angels. Yeah, Cobra, that's a great theory on that. I mean, one of the odd similarities to that, the 200 fallen angels biblically that fell to this earth. And when you look at how many craters there are in our planet, there is approximately 200 craters they say came from old meteor impact sites, ancient meteor impact sites. And there's a lot of kind of oddities, anomalies behind that. But do the fallen angels, are they the parasitic elite that we always talk about? Perhaps there's a lot of information to kind of back that. I keep all options open. So I mean, as much as we've talked about in 68 episodes, we barely scratch the surface on so much out there. That's one thing I always try to urge people to do, is not to jump to conclusions, not to jump to one truth just because, it vibes right. There's so much bits and pieces we have to uncover. We're digging up more and more daily. The important part is the more people that awaken to the lies of the history we've been taught, the more that start uncovering truths in their own way, in their own kind of niches and interests. There's so many people that have came out over the years since I've done this, you know, beginning of 2020, that, I'm learning from them as well. They're learning from me. It's a, you know, collaborative effort. We're here. It's a community. And the more that wake up, the more that scale is going to tip folks. What do I think of Da Vinci? I mean, when you look at like the Mona Lisa, there's no way that somebody with the capabilities of that time made the Mona Lisa. I don't know all the technical details. I was watching a documentary on it the other day, but there's no way that they he made the Mona Lisa. It was impossible. The amount of detail in that painting to be done by the hands of a primitive means of painter at that time with the painting or the colors and stuff that they had. Maybe I'll do a deep dive into Da Vinci on the next go round series of these people, these frauds in history. But I mean, there's a lot about Da Vinci. I mean, another kind of figurehead in history that a lot of work accredited to him. Relativity is wrong. The laser isn't a bullet. Moving with the laser makes it emit at different locations like a siren. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot about Einstein's theories that haven't held up in the modern light, but it's still taught in schools to this day. Yes, Amelia Earhart is definitely on the list as well, Kathy. A lot of you guys were asking about her as well. Uh, throw out some other names, guys. I'll do some research on these characters. And Amelia Earhart was definitely one that I had written down earlier. Definitely get to her coming up. Even all his other technology and human experimentation. Yes. Relatively. I think our purpose in this realm is to master a reality and surroundings around us. So we need nothing from anyone but ourselves. That's a good way to think of it, Vern. Kind of agree with you there. All right. Take a couple more of your guys' questions. Last 10 minutes. Hey kids, it's my pleasure. I it's Thank you for tuning in. That's why I do it. You guys inspire me more and more every day, every episode to keep digging deeper and deeper, pulling at more and more strings. And I love doing it. It's a passion, and grown. I can't believe we're on episode 60. I can't believe how long I've been doing this, since almost, like, the beginning of 2020, I think, when I launched my first TikTok channel. Started off, grew up to 10,000 flat, then got, shadow banned or whatever. Now I'm up to, about 3 million followers on all my platforms, and I just can't thank enough of you guys. It's a life-changing experience. It's something I never thought I would do, but it's something that I love doing, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else. It's what I was put on this earth for, I believe. It's the purpose. When you find your purpose, your calling, your drawing, it hits differently than any other job or anything else you've done in your life. It just draws you to it more and more each and every day. Aside from Mars, there are some crazy astrological alignments over the last year. Yeah, we've seen so many astrological events, like the Northern Lights. I mean, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember when you used to never see the Northern Lights. And if you did, you'd have to be like way far in the north, like in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the like northern Midwest regions, and in Canada to see the Northern Lights. And now it's like we're seeing them all the way as far south as Florida, like almost every other week. And then all the blood moons, and like every day it's like a new like solar event going on. Dave Weiss gave me a shout out the other day. Dave Weiss is an awesome guy. He is an awesome guy. Like I'm not a flat earther myself. I'm definitely open to it. I'm definitely flat earth adjacent. Uh, very much believe a lot of what they say, and anomalies they pointed out in the heliocentric model. Absolutely. Definitely not a glober, but I mean, it's just, great character Dave is regardless. I'd love to have him on the show again sometime soon. We haven't chatted with Dave in quite a long time. Why do people not like Rogan? I think he's a nice guy to everyone he meets in real life. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but I think a lot of people's problems with Rogan is he started out kind of like a truth seeker, kind of like a not narrative pusher type guy. And as soon as he got really big, really, really big, that contract deal with Spotify, then he kind of changed up his whole tune. Like he used to be very much the lunar landing never happened. We never landed on the moon. And now if you talk to him or bring it up, it's he shuts down and says, oh, it's of course we went to the moon. And he sold out. I think that's the big problem a lot of people have with Rogan. Let's see here. Who did a podcast with Rothschild? Dave Weiss did. I did not know. Dave Weiss flipped on the moon landing. No, not Dave Weiss. Joe Rogan. Dave Weiss is very much, I don't think, believes that we went to the moon either. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely something out there, Corvette. I mean, I'm not saying it's all fake. I mean, I was a big space nerd growing up. My favorite movie was Star Wars. My favorite show was Star Trek. Now Stargate SG-1, thanks to our admin, Michael. I've been loving watching that show. I'm up to season 7 on it, but I'm not saying it's fake, but how they teach it, what they teach us, I believe is very fake. I don't believe the moon is just a dusty rock. I don't believe we landed on the moon, that type of stuff. Yeah, Rogan is 100% controlled op. I don't know if he always was. I mean, he was a lot more open-minded, had a lot more open-minded guests on, and he still has some open-minded guests, but he's very, he kind of tries to play it careful. I mean, everybody who's monetized on social media, myself included, we have to somewhat play it carefully what we want to say. We want to say a lot more, but there's a difference between, watching what you say to adhere to the algorithm and not getting banned or shadow banned and outright switching up your message and tone and essentially selling out. Last October, I was watching the full moon and I could see the clouds hitting it and going around it like a rock in a river. I saw it with my own eyes, and the moon is very low in the sky. It's fascinating. Yeah, I've been noticing that for the last few years. I don't know if you've noticed that, Vern, or anyone else has, but when you watch the moon rise and the moon set, it gets really huge and red. It used to be like the big giant red moons were very uncommon. They call them like super moons or blood moons. And now every time the moon sets or rises, it just seems so much bigger than I ever remember it in my almost 40 years of life here. Yeah, I was a space guy, not anymore. I mean, I still am in a way. Like I'll still watch. Star Trek is still very much my guilty pleasure. Uh, and that's out of all the sci-fis, Star Trek's one of my favorites because it shows what humanity could really be like, the best parts of humanity. Like we all figured it out. We all stopped fighting amongst each other. We all stopped worrying about petty differences, and we accelerated towards the stars. I always felt that was the best version of sci-fi humanity. Uh, every other sci-fi is kind of like a dystopian past, like Star Wars. It's kind of like a dystopian future. Relics of the past, like a bunch of like ancient technologies. They're just scrapping together and stuff. I definitely think Stargate seems like it could be real. We did a couple episodes on how I think Stargate is, in big parts, a kind of soft disclosure thing. You watch a couple episodes back on Stargate and like the Gual. That's a great show. It's a great show. Yes, it's about bedtime for me as well. I gotta get my house ready for all my relatives and in-laws coming over for my kiddos' birthdays. Like I said, if you guys have two kids, the best advice I can have for you guys, make sure you have them way close. I got my oldest August 1st, and my youngest was born on August 3rd, so we can always have that one big combined birthday party. It's great. It's great. Let's take a couple more of your questions here before we wrap up for the night. Yeah, you still feel he has the same beliefs. I mean, people sell out for paychecks. I won't say that he completely like gave up all of his views, but he definitely isn't as open with them for sure. Yeah, for sure space is fake and gay. Sadly, it seems like what they teach us about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, others sacred cows that we can't question. That's their version of space is very much fake and gay. Hey, I appreciate that, Alistair. That's what I'm here for. I'm just, questioning everything, and I'm glad you guys are here along with the ride. You guys are the best audience, the best fans a guy could ask for, and appreciate you guys always coming in, tuning live, making the chats so fun. It's been a great ride. I can't believe again we're already on episode 68. So much more to go, though, friends. So much more to go. If you guys have any suggestions of topics for the show, just drop them in Discord, drop them in the chat, in the comments. I try and read through all the comments and chats. If you want to send me a message, if you have any submissions, any suggestions you'd like to email me, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I try and get through as much messages on social media as I can, but it's so overwhelming when you have so many, followers and stuff over the years. It's kind of an impossibility. But the best place to kind of get a hold of me that I actually see coming in on my phone is my email. I'm the improbable dreamer at gmail.com. Make sure you join the Discord and subscribe to Spotify if you haven't yet. It's a great way to help out the channel here. And another way, talking about that tornado, a great way to contribute if you want to contribute to my local community, the United Way foxcities.org / tornado. You can donate your time, you can donate in money, and it goes right to the Fox Cities. The great way to do that. We will be back tomorrow, Friday night. Like I said, this episode and tomorrow's episode is going to be just about an hour. Got to get the house ready for the party. But Sunday's makeup episode for Tuesday will be full hour and a half. So I will see you guys tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. Central Time, where we will continue to question everything together. Have a great rest of your night, people, and I'll see you tomorrow.